Hi everyone. So excited that all of you guys were able to join us. Today is going to be our third workshop in our Youth Environmental Workshop series. And tonight we'll actually be having the Ethical Fashion Initiative be presenting.
Oh, that's what they call a remove.
So the Ethical Fashion Initiative is a youth-led organization pushing for sustainable and ethical practices in the fashion industry. And tonight their workshop will be centered around sustainable and ethical fashion. So we're so excited to have you guys. I'm going to make you the host now, and you guys can get started.
Welcome everybody to our first sustainable fashion workshop. It's really exciting to have you all here today. But before we start, let's just introduce everyone. I'm Kaitlin, the president and founder of the Ethical Fashion Initiative, and I'm a rising junior at Conestoga High School. If Roy could present next, that'd be awesome.
Hi, I'm Roy. I am director of outreach for the Ethical Fashion Initiative program.
Hi everyone, I'm Kaitlin. I'm a rising junior at Conestoga High School, and I'm an editor here at Ethical Fashion Initiative.
Hi, I'm Ruhri. I'm also a rising junior at Conestoga High School, and I'm also an editor.
Hi, I'm Lavanya. I'm also a rising junior at Stoga, and I'm a graphic designer for the Ethical Fashion Initiative.
Awesome. So in today's workshop, we'll first go through the Ethical Fashion Initiative and who we are, and then Roy will help walk us through the environmental impact of today's fashion industry, and then Kaitlin will discuss the fashion industry's impact on human rights, and then Lavanya will introduce us to circular fashion and circular economy, and then Ruhri will discuss some thrifting tips to help you guys with secondhand shopping, and then we'll talk about ethical and sustainable brands that you guys can look out for and support if you guys are financially able to. And lastly, we have a mass tutorial video organized by Ainsley, our textile production manager. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it here today, but we do have a video ready for that. So the Ethical Fashion Initiative is a youth-led organization pushing for sustainable and ethical practices in the fashion industry. Currently, we are promoting sustainability through a clothing upcycling initiative where we upcycle old clothes into masks and blankets for homeless shelters and animal shelters. We are also educating the youth about sustainable fashion through social media. And Roy will now take over this part.
So there's two kind of impacts from fashion. There's humanitarian impact and environmental impact, but I'll talk about environmental impact. So when we talk about the broad topic of pollution, ocean pollution, chemical pollution, and textile incineration, landfill waste, and carbon footprints, and climate change, those are broad topics, what fashion generally impacts in the environment. And fashion in general, as the second largest fashion industry is the second largest polluting industry in the world, right below oil industry. And we first need to build awareness for these categories, specifically what fashion industry can cause. We have to be specific in water pollution, water consumption, microfibers in our ocean, waste accumulation, chemicals addiction, greenhouse gases, soil degradation and desertification, and rainforest destruction. And so we're going to first go to fashion with and water pollution. So in most countries, such as Indonesia and in China, and mostly in the Asian countries, in which garments are produced, have untreated toxic wastewaters from textile factories are dumped directly into the rivers. And wastewater contains toxic substances such as lead, mercury, and arsenic, and among those others. They're extremely harmful for the aquatic life and health of the millions of people living by those riverbanks. The contamination also reaches the sea and eventually spreads around the globe. Another major source of water contamination is the use of fertilizers for cotton production, which heavily pollutes runoff waters and evaporation waters. And over their history, cotton used to be be the main production in the Industrial Revolution. And the reason why it was just, a very resourceful resource is because it's very soft, it's very light, it's very inexpensive, but it can also be very dirty to use in production. So what can we do about this water pollution? Choose clothes made in countries with stricter environmental regulations for factories, such as in the European countries, Canada, USA, etc. We can also choose organic fibers and natural fibers that do not require chemicals to be produced. So let's talk about fashion and water consumption. The fashion industry is a major water consumer, and huge quantity of fresh water is being used for the dyeing and finishing process for all of our clothes. As reference, it can take about 200 tons of fresh water per ton of dyed fabric, and cotton is very resourceful, so it needs a lot of water to grow, and it needs a lot of heat to grow, but it's usually cultivated in warm and dry areas, and up to 20,000 liters of water needed to produce just 1 kilogram of cotton. And this generates a tremendous pressure on this precious resource that is already scarce and has dramatic ecological consequences, such as the desertification of the Aral Sea. So what can we do about this? So we can choose fibers with low water consumption, such as linen, recycled fibers, and etc. Now we're going to move on to fashion and microfibers in our ocean. So every time we wash a synthetic garment, about 1,900 individual microfibers are released into the water, making their way into our oceans. Scientists have discovered that small aquatic organisms ingest those microfibers. These are then eaten by small fish, which are later eaten by bigger fish, introducing plastic in our food chains, which is bad for the environment, the ecosystem, and for our health. So what can we do about this? Choose natural or semi-synthetic fibers. Now we're going to move on to fashion and waste accumulation. Clothing has clearly become disposable. As a result, we generate more and more textile waste. A family in the Western world throws away an average of 30 kilograms of clothing each year. Only 15% is recycled or donated, and the rest goes directly to the landfill or is incinerated. Synthetic fibers such as polyester they're basically plastic fibers, therefore non-biodegradable, and can take up 200 years to decompose. Synthetic fibers are used in 72% of our clothing. So what can we do about it? We can choose natural or semi-synthetic fibers, or we can buy less, buy better quality, and mend clothes and recycle. Now we're going to move on to fashion and chemicals. Chemicals are one of the main components in our clothes. They're used during fiber production, dyeing, bleaching, and wet processing of each of our garments. This is a very inefficient process. The heavy use of chemicals in cotton farming is causing diseases and premature death among cotton farmers, along with massive freshwater and ocean water pollution and soil degradation. Some of these substances are also harmful to the consumers. You can see it about in the toxicity charts. What can we do about this? We can choose organic fibers, choose sustainable brands, always wash new clothes before using them for the first time, or we look for garments with certification labels controlling chemical content such as GOTS or Blue Sign. Now we can move on to fashion and greenhouse gas emissions. The apparel industry accounts for 10% of global emissions. The global fashion industry is generating a lot of greenhouse gases due to the energy used during its production, manufacturing, and transportation of the millions garments purchased each year. Synthetic fibers used in the majority of our clothes are made from fossil fuels, making production much more energy intensive than with natural fibers. Much of our clothes are produced in China, Bangladesh, or India, essentially countries that are powered by coal. This is the dirtiest type of energy in terms of carbon emissions. So what can we do about it? Choose natural fibers, or we can buy less, buy better quality men's clothes, or we can buy clothes made in countries powered by renewable energy. Fashion and soil degradation. The soil is a fundamental element of our ecosystem. We need healthy soil for food production, but also to absorb CO2. The massive global degradation of soil is one of the main environmental issues of our planet is currently facing. It presents a major threat to global food security and also contributes to global warming. The fashion industry also plays a major part in degrading soil in different ways. Overgrazing pastures through cashmere goats and sheep raised for the wool, degradation of the soil due to the massive use of chemicals to grow cotton, and deforestation caused by wood-based fibers like rayon. So what can we do about it? Choose fibers friendly to the soil. Now we're going to move on to fashion and rainforest destruction. Every year, thousands of hectares of endangered and ancient forests are cut down and replaced by plantations of trees used to make wood-based fabrics such as rayon, viscose, and modal. This loss of forest is threatening the ecosystem indigenous communities, as in Indonesia, where large-scale deforestation of the rainforests have taken place over the past decade. So what can we do about it? We can choose lyocell or tencel instead of rayon, modal, or viscose. Now we can move on to humanitarian impacts.
Okay, so when you're in a store, you see wall-to-ceiling racks filled with clothes. These can be elaborate brands or elaborate designs or some name brands. Although these clothes seem amazing, what goes on behind the scenes is beyond unacceptable. People of all ages work long, patronizing days with low compensation. In 2011, Karen Wasinka was just an ordinary shopper inside of Primark. There she bought a pair of jeans, but what she discovered in those jeans sparked a large investigation. In these jeans, there was a note from a worker who made them. This note said SOS multiple times, along with describing the workdays that she experienced. Primark only stated that they will look into the problem, but never updated news outlets. So a term I will be throwing around a lot here is sweatshops, which means a factory or workshop, especially in the clothing industry, where manual workers are employed at very low wages for long hours and under poor conditions. So for those of you who are tuning in right now, I have a question if anybody knows when the term sweatshop was coined. And you can drop in the chat or... So I'll give it just a few seconds. Okay, so the term sweatshop was coined in 1850 for the purpose of having immigrants work these long days. So people might think, what is the point of bringing this up if countries and major political figures have already mentioned the problem with sweatshops? Well, countries ignore these problems because they are constantly at competition with each other to make more money. In 2017, the World Trade Organization provided the statistic that 58.8% of textile or garment exports came from Asian countries. So with that, these countries feel they need to compete with one another each year. Countries focus solely on the production and do not respect the human rights nor oversee how employers treat their employees. The lack of regulation by these governments creates the poor condition and gaps in pay. Countries each year see who can make more money, overshadowing the people that make their products and therefore are the source of their income. According to the Feminist Majority Foundation, women make up 90% of sweatshop labor. These women can range from any age of 15 to 22. Women are hired over men because employers believe that a woman's work is less valuable than a man's. Therefore, they can pay less. Women are forced to do the work to perfection and not allow anything to get in the way. Pregnancy, for example, has gotten many women in Cambodia demoted, then fired. If a woman was lucky enough to keep her job during her pregnancy, no accommodations would be made for women. Requests from employees included longer breaks or more bathroom breaks, but they were declined. Although there are set laws about working conditions in many countries, places still find a way around them. Women working in these factories are considered slaves as they bear these long days with pay far below minimum wage. With the minimum wage comes the sexual harassment. In 2012, the International Labor Organization reported that 54% of women have experienced sexual harassment in sweatshops. Now, these women have to remain quiet because it's their only source of income, so each day they go to work scared for their lives if they will be harassed by their employer. Children in sweatshops is also a problem. In 2013, the International Labor Office published the Global Estimates of Child Labor, which provide overwhelming statistics and insight about the mistreatment of children in developing countries with involvement in the fashion industry. Here, they reported that there are approximately 152 million kids ages 5 to 16 forced to work in sweatshops. With this breakdown, 48% range from 5 to 11. Imagine your sibling or sibling having to sacrifice a childhood to go to work in one of these factories on the daily. Like women, children are very vulnerable to being taken advantage of in the workplace. In countries such as India, 8.2 million children ages 5 to 14 have reported working in factories or farms that then turn into being sex trafficked. Children are expected to remain silent because they are raised to do as told. Employers believe kids will retain this moral and stay silent. The children in factories often end up living on or near these sites. They live in dormitories with other kids. In September 2017, a teen from a Chinese sweatshop spoke to reporters about their experience. He stated that he lived in a 2-story building, one floor for the factory and another as living quarters. In the living quarters, the teen described his 10-person dormitory that did not have a bathroom nor running water. The children in the factory woke up at 7:30 each day to start. Many worked more than 15 hours a day and could remember the exact amount of buttons or zippers that they fixed. So the International Labor Organization, along with other sources, describe how men, women, and children are forced into work. This has developed in some ways into modern-day slavery. They cannot speak out for the fear of being fired. Unfortunately for many, this is their only source of income. They go into work every day with fear of being harassed or taken advantage of, but again, they still go to work because they cannot afford not to go. Parents now have to make the difficult decision to not educate their children because they need them to also chip in. Our systems across the world have failed many for people to be able to wear that luxurious designer label. Next, the topic of circular fashion will be discussed by Lavanya.
Okay, so what is circular fashion? Simply put, it's when the production of an item and the end of its life are equally important. Circular fashion deploys a system in which clothing and personal belongings are produced through a more considerate model in ways such as using fewer materials in production, removing non-recyclable and polluting materials from the supply chain, or reusing garment pieces in packaging. These actions are done with the goals of safely returning waste to nature and prolonging an item's life by using and reusing for as long as possible. To allow for circular fashion, our society needs to turn to a circular economy. What differs a circular economy from, say, a linear or recycling economy? The linear model utilizes resources with a take, make, consume, waste approach, where raw material is taken and made into the said product. Once a product serves its purpose, it's discarded with little care to the waste produced. Needless to say, this model is pretty unsustainable. A transition from a linear economy to a circular economy goes through the stages of a recycling or reusing economy. In this model, the product is reused or recycled into another product, but is also discarded after that stage. Now, a circular economy employs a production, use, recycle, production cycle, so products are constantly being reworked for other purposes. How can we, as consumers, support circular fashion? Consumers must be conscious of the brands we support because we vote with our dollars. Perhaps you could buy less but better quality clothing with the intent of it lasting longer, or choose more sustainable materials when shopping. Have an event like prom or a wedding you're attending? Consider renting one-time wear garments. You can also hold or attend clothing swaps, or consider buying secondhand or thrifting. We at the Ethical Fashion Initiative also have an ongoing upcycling project where we collect old clothes and upcycle them into masks and blankets for homeless shelters and animal shelters, which is a pretty good example of a circular economy. And if you would like to donate any clothes, you can contact us at ethicalfashioninitiative.org@gmail.com.
Okay, so first of all, what is thrifting? Well, you probably know this, but thrifting is going shopping at a thrift store, garage sale, flea market, or etc., where you'll find gently used items at discounted prices. Thrifting may not be as easy as you may think, so here are a few tips to help. First of all, location is a pretty important factor for thrifting. There are a number of thrift stores that are available in more high retail areas like cities, but prices there can be and most likely will be higher than the deals that you can get at thrift stores in local areas. So I suggest try not to shop in luxurious or fancy areas and instead go to more local areas to get the most affordable deals. Going local will also help with the upcycling process in your area, so that adds on to the benefits. Timing is also a pretty important factor when thrifting. Obviously, you do want to get some good purchases, so thrifting on weekday mornings are probably the best for that, because doing that will let you get a chance to look at the new additions to the store before people that come later in the day. Discounts. A lot of their stores actually offer discounts if you're a student or teacher or even veterans. And I think this is definitely a must-know when it comes to thrifting, because it'll help you get even more of that bang for your buck on the already discounted items. Some stores that offer these discounts include Goodwill and Salvation Army. So if you want a discount, make sure to bring your student ID or other identification such as driver's license. Be open-minded. Since you're buying clothes in a thrift store, everything is not perfect, so don't be put off by the fact that you're buying clothes secondhand, because many times items can be in perfect condition or even have the tag still on them. Know what you can and can't fix. You should also know that you can't fix everything that's messed up with all the items. So I mean, like, always check if there's moth holes, stains, odors, etc., and know that these can't be easily fixed or saved unless you pay more money to get them fixed. On the other hand, if it's dirty, scuffed, or just needs to be sewn, you can definitely fix it or get creative by making it into a DIY project. For example, you could do a thrift flip and make a dress into a skirt. You should also know yourself when thrifting. Before walking into a thrift store, take a step back and truly evaluate your closet and your capabilities, meaning have a goal in mind so that you don't overbuy and get sucked into an item just because it's cheap. Knowing what you want beforehand can help you walk away from those all too tempting purchases. Also, make sure to get things that you will actually wear, otherwise it's just extra clothes in the back of your closet that you'll probably never end up wearing. Online thrifting. Next, of course, not everyone will have or find what they want in a thrift store, or they might not have a nearby thrift store they can go to. So instead, just go online thrifting. Especially in a time like this when we're all in quarantine and many of us can't go out, online thrifting is a great option to go thrifting right in your home. Or if you're new to the whole thing, thrifting online is a great way to try it out. Some online thrift stores you can check out are Poshmark, ThredUp, Depop, Mercari, and there are also Instagram stores that have thrifting. Making purchases more eco-friendly. To make purchases more eco-friendly, you should ask to get items without plastic wrap or packaging. For example, ask them not to send it with bubble wrap or plastic mailers. Now my last tip, thrifting isn't limited to just thrift stores. For example, estate sales, they're sales held by individuals to sell belongings such as clothes and furniture from where they live. There's also an outlet you can go to for thrifting, the Goodwill outlet. A lot of items in this outlet are there as their last stop, so clothes there are actually paid for by the pound. So this too is also a good opportunity to thrift super cheaply. To end off, thrifting is a really great way to upcycle and assure yourself that you've just prevented a few more pieces of clothes from piling up in the landfills.
Now that we've learned that some of many brands are not ethically producing their clothes, where can you shop sustainably and ethically? Well, for both men's and women's tops, you could shop at Outerknown. It's a fair trade certified, all organic company that sells a wide range of your favorite go-to basics. 90% of their fibers are regenerated and recycled, and they have a ton of sweaters, hoodies, tees, and tanks that will probably match your style. Other notable mentions are Veta for women's apparel, 8A for women's office wear, and cotton, which is spelled KOTN, for basic tees. For bottoms, Nudie Jeans is all about building a sustainable denim brand. They have a very high number of sustainable products in their collections, and in addition, continuous improvements in their supply chain. They have implemented and intensified the work of their sustainable material tool. They have also put extra focus on their climate work and started to map out their emissions according to the greenhouse gas protocol. Something that sets them apart from other brands, sustainable or not, is that they offer free repairs for life on their jeans. Other than that, Cotton, Outerknown, Veta Alternative Apparel all also have amazing bottom options for, like skirts, shorts, and sweatbands. For swimwear, Summersol, which is based in St. Louis, Missouri, use recycled textiles. Their swimsuits are shipped in reusable bags, and they are a veteran-owned business. Their products range from bikinis and one pieces, and they have a wide size range from extra small to 2X. We also recommend Bowden, which is based in London, and they use eco-nil, meaning that they use regenerated nylon, which includes fishing nets. They have a transparent supply chain, fair wages, give back, and have an eco-friendly packaging. Their products range from bikinis, one pieces, tankinis, swim shorts, hats, and beach bags, and children's swimwear. For accessories, what a better way to stand out from the crowd than to have a custom-made piece. Edda's was created from an innovative standpoint, initially focusing on sustainability while using unusual home goods and refurbished elements. Although the price can vary quite high, you will be supporting a great cause and receiving one-of-a-kind jewelry no fast fashion brand can ever offer. A notable mention for jewelry is Ana Luisa. They make jewelry with 100% recycled material. Now we will be looking at a mass tutorial video, which was organized by Ainsley, which is our textile production manager. So if you guys have any old clothes laying around, hopefully you could use this tutorial to turn those clothes into reusable masks for daily use. Wait, can everyone hear this? Okay.
Hey guys, I will be showing you how to make a mask. I will be using a sewing machine because I own one, and I will link the body template I use down below. So what I do is
Gia, since you're on mute, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll just go back to this part then.
and I will link the body template I use down below. So what I do is I first cut out 4 body pieces, as you will see, and 2 straps from my fabric. Here is 2 of the 4 body pieces, and then here is the other 2. You need both because you want an inside and an outside. Here are the 2 straps. Back to the inside and the outside, you want for double protection, extra protection, stuff like that. So here I am flipping it over inside out, so that's when you sew it. Do not throw away the scraps. Whatever you do that's undermining our position, what we will do is we will collect the straps and put them into dog beds, which we will make as stuffing. Now you will pin the straps together and then sew. And you will now pin 2 of the body pieces together and sew them down the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect because we will fold these in. Now you will pin along the sides about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch to make sure it's all neat and tidy as the edges, so the edges are good and not fraying. Now what you will do is you will turn the straps inside out. What I like to use, because it is hard without a special tool, is I use paper clips. Oh my gosh. I use safety pins and tweezers to get that easier. Now you will sew the straps onto the body piece. You do not use the other two body pieces to do this. Here's another picture of the other side. Now what you will do is you will pin the other two body pieces on to the back. Make sure it's still able to have room for your nose, so push it in. And now you will tailor it to your face. Try it on beforehand and fold it down and tailor it and however it's comfortable for you. This is how it turned out and looked on me. So I made sure to sew it in black so you could see the different liners. That's why it's looking kind of weird. But it fit really, really well. I was really actually proud of myself. So feel free to use this.
All right, and this was, one second, should I, I'll try to, nope. I'll just exit the presentation for now. This was the pattern that Ainsley recommended. It's an 8-inch by 2-inch pattern that she recommended. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the chat and we'll try our best to answer them.
Cool. So now we're going to move into the Q&A section, everyone. So looks like a bunch of people already started adding in questions, so I'll read them out loud. And as we go through this, just like Gia just said, continue to add in your questions. So the first question from Audrey is regarding COVID. What are some ways to thrift online?
Oh, okay. Rudy, do you want to take over with this?
Yeah, sure. So when I talked about online thrifting, I mentioned some online thrift shops that you could go shop at. They include Poshmark, ThreadUp, Depop, Mercari, and then there were a few others that I mentioned. And you can easily, like, if you like type up online thrift stores, a bunch pop up. So you can go, definitely check those out if you want to thrift online.
I also wanted to add it, like, there's online Instagram shops where there's a ton of people who are also reselling clothes, and Goodwill also has their own website where they also sell secondhand.
Cool. Our next question is from, I want to say it's Haley. I might be pronouncing that wrong. And just to kind of summarize her question, she said, obviously we don't want to support brands and companies that are mistreating workers. However, for some of these people, it's their only / main source of income. So if they go out of business, all these workers will have no income at all. And so what are some solutions for this?
Kaitlin, are you okay with taking over this?
Yeah. So I think we just need to advocate to change factory conditions because they're obviously what we consider under code. And I think if companies could fix their ways of factory conditions, the people would be able to keep their job and work in better environments. I still think they could find other jobs, but obviously that it depends kind of on their country.
Also, I wanted to add there's a ton of resources and ways to donate to, I think not only sweatshop workers, but to help combat human trafficking, because oftentimes the labor in sweatshops, sometimes it is sourced by human trafficking. An organization I recommend is the International Justice Mission. I think that's what they're called, but if you could donate to them, they have a really good cause and actively try to combat human trafficking.
Nice. All right, so this was actually a question from me. I was just wondering, what are some sustainable fabrics that you can look out for when you're shopping?
I think, is Roy still here? Because he mentioned earlier what type of fabrics are like really environmentally friendly. Roy, are you able to take over with that? If not, it's okay. So he did mention natural fabrics or semi-synthetic fabrics. such as cotton or linen, I presume. I think we just need to avoid the fabrics that are made of synthetic materials such as nylon or polyester, because those are made of really toxic chemicals and don't degrade, and they will contaminate the ocean with microplastics.
Thank you for that. And from Camille, she said, what are some indications to look out for when researching on clothing companies that claim that they are sustainable and eco-friendly, but they're actually not?
Oh, so this is a really important topic. That was a really good question. So there are now a lot of companies that are greenwashing and claiming that they are sustainable when they actually don't. So a great way to actually research that is directly contact an email or call the company. A lot of brands that are sustainable and ethical, they will answer your emails and calls. But also there's websites out there, blogs that are dedicated to researching brands that are ethical and sustainable. I did mention earlier a list of 9 brands that are ethical, but there's definitely a lot more there. So yeah.
And from Jim, he asked, some affordable housing organizations have resale stores, including clothing. Is this a good way to also support their work when you buy clothes, or does it take resources from low-wage people making clothes?
That's a good question. Let me just take some time to think about that. Are you able to elaborate on what type of resale stores these are?
Yeah, Jim, do you mind going off mute and explaining your question a little bit more?
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to type it in. There's resale stores like Habitat for Humanity has them. And there's other affordable housing groups that also have stores that resell materials, including clothing. So I kind of like to use them because then I'm also supporting the affordable housing mission. But in listening to this, I wonder if that is actually taking work away from low-wage people who are making clothes.
That's a good question. I think actually is Kaitlin, are you able to answer this? Because I think you're more knowledgeable about the sweatshops.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on your viewpoint, but shopping secondhand can prevent more products from being made by these factories, and hopefully it kind of just sends a message to these factories saying that people are choosing other ways to shop because they do not support the message behind the brand. And we're hoping that by more people shopping ethical, brands will kind of reevaluate their conditions.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question. Let me know if that doesn't.
That's very good. It's a tricky one. So yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Awesome. And our last question from Audrey, and if you guys have any last questions within this last minute of our Q&A, feel free to add them in now. But right now are there any new laws or policies that are being created to help have an ethical production process?
Currently, I'm unaware of any laws and policies. It's kind of difficult because sweatshops are often located in countries, in different countries. And that's just really conflicting because as Kaitlin mentioned earlier, they have different labor standards. So I don't know to what extent the United States could be involved in that. But I did know a way to help this solve this issue is that earlier this summer, the hashtag #PayUp movement, which was an online movement where people were demanding for better wages among sweatshop workers, did actually create some change. So Levi's, it made Levi's start paying their workers more. So it really it's difficult for the law to actually get involved in this, I think. I hope that solves your question.
Cool. I think that wraps up the Q&A section. If any of you guys, again, have any last minute questions, we'll wait like 15 more seconds. If not, we're going to let Ethical Fashion Initiative go back to their presentation. Cool. Yeah, let's just keep on going.
All right, so I think this is it. Just to wrap it up, if you want to contact us, our email is theethicalfashioninitiative.org@gmail.com, and our Instagram is theethical.fashion.initiative. We have much more exciting projects coming up. If you guys ever want to donate any of your old clothes for us to turn into masks and blankets, just email us, and we could discuss the shipping and the mailing and details.
Awesome. So before everyone leaves, Gia, do you mind stop sharing your screen? Just to wrap up our workshop for today, thank you guys again for all tuning in. I hope you guys learned a lot from all of the incredible information that Ethical Fashion Initiative shared. We will definitely be compiling all of these workshops in our virtual series into some type of video or IGTV, some type of platform for everyone to look at later on as well. Just a reminder that if you guys are interested in these workshops at the Urban Garden Initiative, we have been hosting these on a weekly basis. So this coming Sunday, we should have another workshop as well. And Jim, who's one of the participants right now, will be hosting one in 2 weeks as well. So that's another one to look out for. But just continue to get your friends to sign up onto our Zoom link and continue joining in, supporting. We're hoping to deliver and give out a lot of other environmental content to everyone as well. But thank you guys again for attending. If you have any last minute questions, feel free to stay on. Otherwise, we will be saying goodbye.